Roguelikes, the most popular genre among indie devs, and today I'm going to tell you why. I'm also going to tell you why AAA developers don't usually make roguelikes. I mean, other than God of War Ragnarok, Valhalla, we don't really have more roguelike examples within the AAA space. But first, let's talk about why indie devs are so interested in this genre. From the beginning of time, indie devs have pondered upon a simple question: how do we make the most amount of content while spending the least amount of time making the said content? The answer was simple: make the player play the exact same level over and over again. Problem is that this makes the game boring. But by adding the randomness factor, the game loses its boringness factor. And believe it or not, scripting a complex randomness factor is much easier than creating a whole bunch of additional assets. If you look at Rogue Legacy, there are like 4 to 5 zones in this entire game. If this game was not a roguelike, you would be able to beat it in less than 2 hours. My own experience of making a roguelike shows that if a developer spends 30% more time on programming, they can increase the lengtitude of the content by 10 times. And this is the main reason why developers make roguelikes. Gamers want to spend $1 on a game and then play it forever, and roguelikes are the best genre when it comes to value per dollar. That is also why we can see so much innovation within the roguelike genre. The roguelite genre, for example, or the vampire survival genre. These are evolved forms of roguelike. And now to answer the big question, why do AAA developers don't bother with roguelikes? The reason is pretty simple. AAA devs have live services. Believe it or not, roguelikes and live services are very similar to one another. Both rely on a randomness factor. Difference is that the randomness factor in a roguelike is mainly in the level design and the random placement of enemies and loot. In a live service, the randomness factor is caused by player interaction. In a game like Overwatch, you're playing the same stages over and over again. But it's not boring because the players are there to change the outcome of each match, hence adding the randomness factor. But the gameplay loop is the exact same. I mean, now that I look at this picture, you can argue that all games are like this. But this is more accurate with roguelikes. So yeah, one of the main reasons that roguelikes are so popular among indies is because roguelikes are the live services of indie devs. Some indie developers can afford to make live services, but most can't. So the roguelikes become the best alternative. There is also a strong marketing reason behind all this. The longer you play a game, the longer you expose it to other people. And that leads to more sales. If you play a 5 to 10 hour game, your friend is going to see you play that game once or twice. That's not enough to spark any curiosity. But if you're playing a game for a total of 40 hours on and off, the chances of your friend deciding to check out the game also increases. This is what I call silent word of mouth. Actual word of mouth is when you literally tell your friend to play a game. One thing to note is that AAA developers used to have roguelike elements in their games more often back in the day. For example, if you play Diablo 2, you will notice that the different scenes reset themselves differently when you revisit them. Either the enemy groups are different, or the placement of shrines and wells are different. So even though the dying mechanic was not similar to roguelike games in Diablo 2, many things still was. And given the fact that once in a while you had to go back to previous zones in order to level up, this definitely made the experience more pleasant. Keep in mind that sometimes stuff like this was caused by technical limitations instead of purposeful design. Saving the game was hard back in the day, so many developers didn't program the game to save everything. But when you're making a roguelike, you can't just reduce the amount of time you're spending on level design and just call it a day. No, in a roguelike, people expect you to increase something else in exchange for the semi-repetitive content, mainly the variation in gameplay. The idea is not to make a roguelike just to reduce the work, but to make it so that you can shift the work towards more important things. The expectation is that you will put the same amount of effort into the project, but the result should be lengthier content. I think that's all I had to say about roguelikes for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.